Hey, what's up everybody? I'm your host Jonathan Thames of Rosie and Ernie Productions, and welcome to another episode of Multimedia Megafan Movie Reviews. On today's episode, we're jumping into part 3 of our serial review of the DCEU. Now, after the release of Batman vs. Superman earlier in 2016, the studio released the follow-up film, David Ayer's Suicide Squad, in August of the same year. So the trailer came out, and it looked, well, fun. It definitely got me interested to see the movie, though I have to say my excitement definitely paled in comparison to when I first saw the trailer for the first 2 films, and it was kind of accompanied by this lingering skepticism in the back of my head. Not sure exactly what could have done that. Oh yeah. So, I confess, I wasn't as genuinely amped up about this movie as I had been about the previous 2. Whereas I overall liked the movie alright, I think there were a lot of things that just didn't hit very well. Way before ever hitting theaters, I was already feeling off about the Joker, like a lot of people were. When the first images of Jared Leto were released, I just really didn't care for the character design they went with. I mean, don't get me wrong, Jared Leto himself is a very talented actor who normally delivers very well, so I was really excited to see what he would bring to the role. And I will say that the design is a comic book-based design, but it isn't a design that reflects the general audience's perception of who the Joker is and how he carries and styles himself. And even in relation to the comic design they did it based off of, they went a little crazy on embellishments and made him too gaudy and flashy with the clothes, tats, and jewelry, and to me, that in itself really doesn't accurately represent the Joker's character. But image isn't everything, so maybe it could still be really, really good, right?
Are you sweet-talking me?
Oh. When the movie finally hit, it unfortunately became quickly and widely agreed upon that that was not the only issue this movie had. I don't know if the issues I'm about to talk about are the results from the writing or the editing or because the studio just hacked the original cut, but the resulting on-screen product definitely had some issues. So for anybody that really, really, really loved the style of Zack Snyder's Man of Steel and Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice, this movie's got a message for you.
I'm not gonna kill you. I'm just gonna hurt you. Really, really bad.
But why, DC? I love you.
I am not someone who is loved. I'm an idea.
Knowing that the fan reception for BVS was mixed and that the studio wanted to push for a more light-hearted approach to future films, I really wasn't sure what to expect. Now, please don't misunderstand, I don't object to light-hearted takes on superheroes, but with what had already been established in the universe, I was wondering how they'd be able to merge the two tones together successfully. There are a lot of people that debate whether Marvel or DC comics are better, and my answer to that is that they're both awesome.
That is paradoxical.
Marvel has its vibrant, colorful, and usually more campy vibe, which is fantastic, and in contrast, DC usually takes a more intense, gritty, and dramatic approach. Now I say usually because there are certain exceptions in both cases, but each has their own individual approach and style, and in my opinion, that's worked really, really well all the way around. But with the MCU films, which I also love by the way, being highly successful, it was no surprise to many that the studio's answer would be to try and use some of the Marvel formula for future DCEU films to contrast the previous darker-toned movies. And boy, did they ever.
I was gonna say I wouldn't do that if I were you. You left me in a black hole of rage and confusion.
The first thing I'll mention is the soundtrack. Within the first 5 minutes of this movie, we get 3 hugely popular pop rock songs to accompany a very quickly paced introduction to 3 of the film's main characters.
There is a house.
And there are several popular songs sprinkled throughout the movie as opposed to more cinematically composed music to help accompany the story. Now, I don't mean to say that I always take issue with this. I mean, for certain movies it works really well, and the music for the soundtrack is really good for the most part, but again, referring back to the tone set by the prior films, it just feels out of place in my opinion. For the most part, the movie feels like a big dance party in a club on a Friday night and less like a purposeful story about the characters and their circumstances. And maybe I'm alone in this, but I tend to zone out from a movie for a few seconds when I hear a song I really like. Like, for that few seconds, I'm totally rocking out and not focusing on what's happening on the screen. And for this movie, I really felt like it hurt the story rather than help the story. Another thing that I want to address is that the super quick introductions really kind of oversimplify the significance of some of these characters in relation to their impact and influence in the comics. And the best examples I can think of are probably Killer Croc and Katana. It just really feels like there was a lot more story to tell on both fronts. I mean, I know they had a set window of time they were aiming to tell their story within, so I understand why they opted to shortcut, but as a viewer I felt like I would have gladly chosen to invest more viewing time in exchange for getting a slightly better developed backstory for these characters.
What the hell is that?
His name is Waylon Jones. Evolution took a step backwards with this one. They call him Killer Croc. He looked like a monster, so they treated him like a monster, and he became a monster. He was chased out of Gotham by the Bat, went searching for sanctuary elsewhere. He never found it.
You're late.
用があった。
頼もう勘弁してくれ。
あの時、あの人への慈悲は悪に慈悲が被られることはない。
This is Katana. She's got my back. She can cut all you in half with one sword stroke, just like mowing the lawn. I would advise not getting killed by her. Her sword traps the souls of its victims.
And the plot setup is a little silly and over the top in my opinion. They're put in a relatively non-inspired and not super original situation as they're pitted against the Enchantress, who in this movie they portray as a powerful witch that's thousands of years old, who possesses the body of Dr. June Moon after she awakens the soul of her brother so that they can destroy all of humanity, seeking vengeance after once having been worshipped, then betrayed by humanity and trapped for centuries. I don't know, it just seems pretty weak. So is June Moon's character, and that's no fault of the actress Chloe Delevingne, but the writers, all they gave her to do was just be scared, cry, and say Enchantress. Now, when she becomes Enchantress, she does a good enough job, again within the confines of what the writers gave her to work with, but the Enchantress from the comics is more of an anti-hero and has much more substance behind her powers and character. And I'm pretty sure I remember reading that Suicide Squad comics writer John Ostrander himself reportedly said that he didn't think that the setup really represented a scenario that would go down in the books, in the sense that the team from the books doesn't usually encounter or handle such on-the-nose, save-the-world type situations. Now, I know I've already mentioned the character design, but I also really don't like how they portrayed the Joker's character in terms of how he functioned as a crime boss and love interest to Harley. The club scene in particular really feels like a miss to me. I mean, he comes across more like a Bad Boys villain, which, don't get me wrong, works great for Bad Boys, but it's not the Joker. And when it comes to Harley, there are scenes where they actually insinuate that he begrudgingly shares some of the romantic feelings that she has for him. But that is absolutely contradictory from how it is in the source material. Harley's character originated in Batman the Animated Series and continued into the comics, and he straight up and abusively uses and manipulates her without a moment's pause. In the one episode, it almost seems like he cares for her after she's left. He ends up revealing that he just missed her around to have her doing his bidding. They totally over-romanticize their relationship in this movie, and it's extremely unnecessary and again distracts from what should be the focal points of the movie's plot. Now, there are a few good things I want to say about this movie. I mean, for one thing, I actually really liked the casting. I mean, despite all of the story developing flaws, everyone plays their parts really well with the room that they're given to work within. Will Smith plays this version of Deadshot really well, and I think brought the right balance of lightheartedness and seriousness to the role.
Hey, Angelo. This is the exterminator you called for your rat problem. Account's looking a little thin.
No one gets paid until what needs to get done gets done.
Nope, that's not the rules. No money, no honey.
Viola Davis is awesome, and she's very convincing as the cold and calculated Amanda Waller. She's crafty and cunning and conniving.
Are you the devil?
Maybe.
is just a mean lady.
Yeah, you get used to it.
Courtney is absolutely awesome. He definitely brings a healthy dose of lightheartedness and comedic relief to this film, and executes it very well.
Calm down.
Hey, 1 minute I'm playing mahjong with me man. I think this red streak hits me out of nowhere.
Shut up. You were caught robbing a diamond exchange.
Oh, was not.
Margot Robbie is perfect as Harley Quinn, practically stealing the movie with her performance.
Something tells me a whole lot of people are about to die. You're ruining date night!
Joel Kinnaman did a really good job as Colonel Rick Flag and really sells the idealistic yet conceited arrogance and pride that the character is very well known for in the books.
I'm a soldier. And you're a serial killer who takes credit cards. When the shooting starts, and it will, you'll cut and run.
And Hernandez gives a very subtle yet powerful and heartfelt performance as El Diablo.
When I get mad, I lose control, you know, I don't know what I do. Till it's done.
And the actor and actress who respectively played Killer Croc and Katana also did great jobs, though they didn't really have much room to work within. Also, despite Jared Leto's appearance and his genericized written character approach, I thought his performance of the iconic Joker was absolutely on point. He brings just the right blend of zany and creepy and really reminded me of Mark Hamill's take of the iconic character in Batman the Animated Series.
I can tell you meant that.
But to get a better example of this, I'd highly recommend watching the extended cut. I may be one of the few, but I'm really hoping to see more development from his Joker in the future. Another thing I really like, admittedly, are the Batfleck cameos. I actually do feel like that was a helpful element in developing the story and establishing what realms certain characters originated from, and in a small way, helped to drive where things are going next. Plus, it's Batman. Additionally, the movie is fun and is entertaining, which is really what counts at the end of the day, in my opinion. I mean, most of the humor in the movie works well, and the action scenes in particular are very well shot and composed, and they're visually exciting. And the CGI, whereas it's not the best I've ever seen by a long shot, it certainly isn't poor, and it adequately serves the needs of this film to provide a mostly pleasurable viewing experience. They even name-drop the movie title at one point, which, when well executed, is always fun, from my nerdy perspective anyway.
So that's it? What, we some kind of suicide squad?
I'll notify your next of kin.
Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the review, and I'll see you guys in the next video.